Real Peace, brought to you by Kwabi&thePeaceCampaign, is a podcast dedicated to discovering ways in which everyday people can learn about community, seek understanding of self and others, and gain tolerance on opinions they might not agree with. How do we learn to live together? How do we learn to love each other? These questions and much, much more we'll attempt to answer only on Real Peace. I'm your host, Kwabi, and I'm a peace campaigner. Behind the camera is our producer, Kevin Wolford, and without him, none of this would be possible. And today, we're going to be talking about art. And not just art itself, but musically, literary, musically, or visually. How can we use art in order to promote positivity? And how do we inspire others to live a positive, nonviolent, peaceful, loving life? And so I got three amazing guests on the show today to talk about this topic with me. My first guest is Caleb Jermaine Barsh, who is a singer-songwriter, amazing musician, local, from Tacoma. And I got him on here because pretty much his persona, the characteristics he shows are very positive. And so when I heard about him and I heard his music, I had to get him on. How's it going, Caleb?
It's going good.
It's going good?
Pleasure to be on. Honored.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you on the show. And so my second guest is my longtime lifting partner, Daniel Choi. How long have we been lifting, man?
I'd say about 3 years, almost.
3 years? It's too long. we should be a lot buffer than this, huh?
I know.
How heavy we lift. But I got him on the show because basically, getting to know Daniel, he's very, very enthusiastic and has a lot of passion behind cartoons and comics and manga and anime. So we thought it would be really interesting to have him on and to sort of get his perspective on the topic. And so, how are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing well.
I know. Well. I mean, I just saw you it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
We'll be back at it again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And my last guest is Jonathan Hanks, who is a very inspirational artist, portraitist, to be specific. Recently, you've been doing some work with refugees, right?
Yes.
Okay. What's going on with that, Jonathan? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I wrote a project proposal to the Tacoma Community House and also work with the Tacoma Refugee Choir. And basically my proposal was to paint portraits of refugees, get their stories recorded, audio recordings, and while I'm painting, I record a time lapse of my painting of their portrait.
I've seen that online on Facebook. It has you and you're there and you're doing your work and it's speeding up and it's going faster. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I put their stories behind the portrait. So you're hearing this person's story, and while you're hearing their story, you see them basically kind of emerge from this canvas. And so it basically my goal is to humanize, to inspire connection with my art.
That's profound. That's profound. So I think this group is a good group to actually hash out this question. So I guess we're gonna have at it. I'm gonna turn on the light. The resemblance of conversation here. So that goes on. So what do you guys think? How can you guys? Okay, so we got two art consumers here. Of course, you guys consume art on the daily, but you guys are actual artists. How do you guys go about promoting positivity? What does that look like for you? I guess I'll start with you, Caleb. With your music, I've heard some of it. Very positive, very uplifting, very community oriented. How did you get into that?
Well, I always, growing up, I always heard, it takes a village to raise a child. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then I love words, love writing. And so my goal as an artist has been to help people find the adversity in their life to where they develop tools to use them as their advantage.
Okay.
So when I write music and write from my experiences or interactions, I usually have that type of approach in my outlook. Okay. And by default, I'm always just a happy-go-lucky person.
Okay.
And so see the bright side usually. And so while I'm writing, I'm usually writing towards that perspective, regardless of, if it's coming from a deep, painful place.
I see.
And so sometimes it might come across as something really, really happy, but more in depth behind it, it's coming from, some pain.
Do you think musicians like yourself, do you think they're obligated to speak out on positive things, or is that it's just you, or and this is sort of like yourself and you're emulating that through your artwork, or is it sort of like a mission? What do you think?
I think as artists, it's our duty to be ourselves
Okay.
and let ourselves really come through the art. And when we're collaborating, to really mesh ourselves together, because it's to have this outlet of singing. You know, it's I understand there's people who want an outlet.
Yeah.
And they want to be heard.
Yeah.
You know, and so hearing from people in different walks of life, it's like if I can take my outlet and express who I am and my outlook, you know, and other artists can do the same, you know.
Okay.
Like, so I have a sunny disposition.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't have that.
You're right. You're right.
So be yourself. We're all colors on the palette, you know.
Yeah.
Paint on the canvas. And so if I can do my part, be my best self, and you know, help transcend experiences into music where people can grow with it and relate, then I would push other artists to do that same exact thing. You know, if you got pain you want to talk about, you know, but it's like, don't do any harm to a sense to where you have to come at someone to start more.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. There's so much language out there to where you can try to push a message and say, hey, then now I'm going to do this.
Okay.
But now what? That's where it always comes down to. Now what in the music? What's the turn on it?
That's interesting. That's interesting. Jonathan, for yourself with your artwork, where did your inspiration come from to do the whole thing with the refugees? Is that a personal experience, or is that something you just wanted to grow awareness for? Or?
Well, I mean, I think, it came from my values.
Okay.
So, and those values come from a lot of personal struggles. I think that all of our deepest values are developed from our deepest struggles in life. And so, you know, that's where I came from, and that's why I started promoting basically values of humanizing others, connecting with others, and accepting others. And so that's kind of what I wanted to show through my art, and how I approached kind of what I wanted to project from my art. So
wow, that's spot on, man.
I mean, I think everybody has a little art in them. Okay. You know, I mean, this is your art.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
it's more like Kevin. It's more like Kevin's art.
Everybody in here, you know.
Yeah.
There's an art to weightlifting too. You know, I mean,
hey.
So
That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in that, both you guys, I would characterize you guys as both positive artists in a sense. You're working towards the betterment of mankind or the world. It's sort of like it's sort of like your testimony in a sense, and it inspires people, right? But for those artists who don't do those things, I guess, you know, like you said, I mean, I guess some of them are being themselves, right? I don't want to put any names on anyone, but there are artists that are out there that make music just for music's sake, which is, I mean, is there a problem in that, you know? Or, you know, artists that are in the limelight and they don't say things, right, that they could be, are they doing like a disservice to mankind, or how do you guys view that? What would you say, Daniel?
I think we're discussing it earlier. We were talking about maybe someone who's very popular now in the mainstream is someone like Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is like, he's doing amazing things with his music, you know, being able to produce like #1 hits over and over, while being able to kind of show this party persona. So we're saying, is it because of the fact that he has that persona that he doesn't do that? Because does it give different light into him now, saying that, because then are we more inclined to think, oh, well, now he's thinking about this issue versus I want to be about the party life, that kind of thing.
Someone of his success, and to get where he's at, he's had to have gone through some sort of racial, adversity, regardless of race, struggles, right? And everyone's multifaceted, right? Though you guys do very positive stuff, there's bad things that happen to all of us, right? So we're taking that choice to put something out in the world that's positive. The same as if someone who is very popular has that same choice. Why do you think he has his reservations behind doing that?
Well, obviously there's value to superficiality, you know, and sometimes it's not a bad thing to just focus on the superficial. Okay. You know, because we don't always have to be deep. You know?
That's true.
We don't always have to go.
Yeah, like gotta get into the nitty gritty. Like, you don't have to be like that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, and so obviously he's getting, you know, lots of income and value from writing a good, it could be just a superficial song about something,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way he rolls.
Right.
It's not necessarily bad. Do you think if more artists were to raise more awareness of issues going on, that the world would be a better place? Or, to me, it feels like it's a no-brainer. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, well, shoot, I got to go back to Bruno Mars just for a second.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a lot of, like, we're in a wave right now of artistry to where it's getting more out there, and I'm seeing a lot more of it. And I mean, it could be just because I'm diving in personally, but I hear from, different walks of life, like they're enjoying more of the local art.
Okay.
And I'm just catching that vibe around. Even when I was in North Dakota, they were talking about how the art scene in North Dakota is starting to explode.
Why were you in North Dakota?
I was visiting my brother.
Okay, that's what's up.
But about Bruno Mars, like his, I would say, like even some of his tracks, he has so much music that the ones that get played on the radio are usually the ones that are not the ones he chose to get played.
Wow.
So the ones that are pushed out there as a artist from him being signed and not having full control of what gets out there, he's definitely getting hits, but popping hits and orchestrating in a way where he has the sultry, the funky, the party, so different walks of life can identify with Bruno Mars as a person and as an artist. And then when they want to find out more, he has like a huge catalog of so much music.
I mean, there's a gray area. I think you're onto something, because I mean, it shouldn't be like, some artists should only do the positive, deep stuff. I mean, artists want to be diverse. That's why they're artists. They want to like be creative and just have no bounds, no.
If I want to do this, I can do this. If I want to do that, I do that.
Yeah.
It's how I express myself, in a sense.
Yeah, and you speak to the persona observed. Almost like, so when you're questioned, you speak to the persona observed to a stance that let's get to know each other a little bit better. So then you can see the more outside the box I really am.
I see. And that's more intimate.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, okay. All right, guys. Daniel, so you've viewed a lot of cartoons, a lot of manga, a lot of anime and things like that.
Yeah.
From all that, I'll call it research. From all your research, right? Would you say that overall, say there's a child, right, and he or she is watching these sort of things, do you think that they could take away, like, say something's violent in a show that they're watching, do you think that could directly correlate with their behavior? Because it's an art form, cartoons, animation, things like that. And sometimes a lot of the children's ones, I mean, they're violent. And do you think that translates with kids and that, as far as their upbringing, that goes into their psyche and how they go about living their lives?
Well, I would say a little bit, but not necessarily, because kids imitate anything they watch. So if a kid sees, maybe a dog is hitting a cat with a bat, they're going to do the same thing, because it's just like they think that's funny. And so it's really, like, we could say that's like not necessarily psyche. It's just them copying something that they saw online or a form of media.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, take for example Transformers growing up. I mean, there was some violence in there, but I mean, I don't feel as if I was running around trying to shoot folks or things like that.
Right. It just allows kids to have more imagination towards it, because before seeing Transformers, we would think cars are just cars are forms of transformation or transportation. But then you see like that show is just like, whoa, there could be something more to it, and it just kind of gives them like a little bit of imagination so that they can play with it. Because especially they have like figurines to do it as well. They can kind of just make their own story.
I see.
So they can start becoming like story writers themselves. Maybe that's some big thing they want to do, or just it's like their own outlet, so that maybe they don't have the best circumstances, so it's like their way of just escaping the world.
So in translating that with art, the people who are making the animation, there's a story that they're trying to portray for people to pick up. So, like, for example, with your artwork, what do you, I mean, I guess this is a difficult question because you don't know what people are thinking, but when you're drawing and you're doing your paintings, what do you want people to take away from the painting? Is there something is it like a specific message you're trying to portray with it?
Well, with the refugee portraits specifically, for them to see the refugees for who they are, a fellow human being.
Okay.
You know, I want them to look into the eyes as I, slowly draw them. It's a process because they start out from the eyes.
Interesting.
And to humanize them, to hear their story, to find some sort of connection, because I know a lot of people other them, see them as somebody as a group other than themselves.
Sure.
And when they hear their stories, they see, oh, this person is on the journey of life just like me.
Yeah.
You know?
That age-old battle of we and them, and trying to break that down and just see the commonalities between us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all on the journey of this life,
I feel that, man.
We all have diverse journeys.
Mm-hmm. So be able to recognize that
Yeah.
and then have other people recognize that. That's sort of like the mission with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Humanize, connect. Yeah.
So, like, I guess my main question is for those musicians and artists that are, because I guess I can't characterize it as bad music or bad art, but things that condone violence.
Yeah.
We live in a society where anyone can do anything; it's their right. But would you say to a fellow artist like, "Hey, have you thought about expressing yourself in this fashion or in this? Is that bad to do that to a fellow artist? Be like, hey, what you're doing, like, it's kind of, maybe like an artist is having a song about like gangs or like killings and shootings and doing these sort of violent crimes. Like, as an artist, first of all, do you feel obligated to talk to that artist if you know him to be like, hey, dude, like what you're putting out, that might not be the most positive thing. It might not be the best for the people that you associate with. Or do you feel as if they have the right to be able to, of course they have the right to be able to do their own thing, but do you challenge it? I guess that's my question.
Relationship, context.
Yeah.
I mean, and what principles you're standing by. I mean, on a pop level to what's pushed and understanding the industry and what people choose to push to make their dollar.
Okay.
Then that would say, based upon my principle and my relationship with someone, whether am I working with this person or am I question this person based upon our relationship. Like, able to ask them that question.
I see.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, there's so much out there.
Okay, yeah.
There's so much out there. So, like, when we come to our point of giving back, like me, for example.
Okay.
I'm writing with a younger artist, and he wants to say, I remember I was in college, and this dude who lived above me came and brought me some lyrics. And he had a lot of the N-words in there, And I was like, it feels good to say the N-word, right? He was like, yeah. And I was like, so think about that. Cross it out and take every N-word in there and elaborate on what you felt. Wow. You know what I mean? Because you can say that over and over and over and over, and it can release a certain boom, boom, but everyone's trying to get something out. It's like just like the comics, and then it inspires you to have more imagination. It's like art begets art. So it's going to spark.
Right.
I see.
Like, what you're doing with the refugees is freaking right.
Yeah, it is.
That's so dope.
It is dope, man.
Yeah.
Because the story, they wanted their story to be told. And then when people feel heard and valued, they start to be more themselves and give more.
Wow. Heard and valued. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's hard to... These are good questions, though. They're hard to answer.
Make you go...
I just feel like, what am I talking about?
I mean, because there's such a broad...
Yeah.
I mean, with art...
Yeah,
I
know.
There's such a broad influence, and as an artist, who says violence doesn't relate to peace,
Say that. I was thinking the same thing, I gotta do this so this can be done. Yeah,
Because in every, hero's story,
someone's good.
The hero has to fight the dragon to achieve the peace, Who
That's
knows,
true.
There's got to be a struggle.
The canvas got to get hit with the paint.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The mic got to get hit with the words.
It's inspiring.
There's give and take in every single thing.
That's a part of life. Confrontation. And if we silence that, we're essentially censoring life. And that's a part of art. I mean, art is essentially you are expressing life that's going on within yourself or what you've seen, what you've been inspired by. I wish I was a better artist.
Oh, you are.
Dude, this is your art right
this
here.
is right here.
No,
Like,
what are you
I think
talking
you're doing
about?
a brilliant job, man.
I think you're doing brilliant. Yeah,
like,
brilliant.
Like,
you know?
just smash it.
This is my question. This is a big question. Okay. So for those, do you think there is a space essentially for positivity in art that's like, okay, for example, I guess you would characterize this as selling out, but those who are making music and art that's either very violent or very vulgar for the sake of being popular. And then on the counter to that, would you say that because something is positive, it might not get as much exposure nowadays?
Yeah.
And like, why is that? That's whack, man. like
Positivity's got to be grassroots.
Okay.
It's got to be grassroots, man. The overall like frequency and dynamics of the world, people attribute to the negative, and that a little more easier. Like it gets people a rise, you know, and it's more monetary based. Like it gains more money faster.
Gotcha.
So on a grassroots level, like there's so much positivity within the communities and pockets and when we connect these pockets, you know, eventually it'll get to a positive level to where there's more aspects of positive, like to where, you know, say for example, there's crossover music now that can be played on the radio in the club that's also can be played at like a church or something.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And artists are starting to do say beyond the barriers, because at one point they wanted to get outside the box, you say?
Yeah.
And it takes time, you know, like we got to give honor to the people who came before us and try to do what we're unable to do right now.
Yeah. I remember way back in the day when Kanye West came out with Jesus Walks, everyone was losing it.
Yeah, like,
it was like, what is going on? It's playing the club.
Jesus Walks.
Yeah, it's playing in church. Like everyone's playing it. And then I mean, he changed up the script. But I mean, something like that, like and revolutionary in a sense, you know. Not that it wasn't done before, but I mean, I feel like if we can do that more often, why don't we choose to do that? I mean.
But that kind of comes back to like what you're saying about him, what he's saying about negativity or just like stuff. It's because it's just those things, like if we take the mass, like certain areas they will do that, but it's just like saying about like you know, selling certain products. Like not all of us are salesmen. I don't think any of us are salesmen here. But we're seeing like they're saying like selling weed or just other things of that nature. That's something that we perceive as bad. That's not that we can't live through that. We live through those lyrics, and like maybe that's just like what people are doing is just like kind of like riles them up a little bit. That kind of gives out that like I'm bad. I'm bad.
I'm okay. No. I feel you. Because sometimes I'll be listening to music in my car, like, all right, like, I'm feeling myself, you know. That's sort of like that music. Sometimes I feel like, you know, we indulge ourselves in certain art forms to feel like we are not, in a sense, sometimes, right? Or to like try on different clothes in a sense, right?
To be something different than what we are perceived to be. So it's like, for me, an Asian American man, I can never be an African American. So it's just like living through that of their lyrics, like what is, it's like, it's just perceived in that kind of goggle. It's just like, it's only one lens of what they're talking about, but it's still something so drastically different from what I am
used to. And so in some way, you're kind of connecting the dots. You're talking about the humanistic value of your artwork. Yeah. And so I guess in a way, shape or form, it's sort of like you're clinging to that. And so you can sort of relate in a sense of you listening to the music.
Right. And just being something of just being different, just of like besides of what I'm thinking as the norm. It's just like listening to that is just like giving me a different idea of who I could be. And
it's interesting. A lot of people aren't like you, Dan. A lot of people will listen to the same kind of music, like watch the same shows, and you know, like participate in the same sort of art forever, and not feel the need to diverge and to look at something that's different. I wonder, you know, for people like, I'm guessing everyone here is like that. Why we have that impulse to look at things that are not like ourselves and to actually do research and to look into things that are so abstract, not necessarily abstract, just different, you know? I wonder where that curiosity comes from, or even courage in a sense. I feel it's really courageous.
Well, it takes a person who's not afraid to explore something that is different from themselves. I think that type of person is a little more open-minded, is a little more curious, and a little more inclined to search for understanding, search for just understanding somebody different than themselves,
Wow.
So, I mean, in case of diverse persons, somebody who has that in them.
Wow.
A creative mind.
Creative mind.
Yeah.
I would also say somewhere where it's kind of coming down to like what we consume for media. A lot of like say beauty products are trying to say you want to be lighter skin.
Oh, I've seen
so
that.
like that's a big thing.
Especially in like Jamaica and a lot of Western African countries. They have like certain lotions and stuff you can put on to whiten your skin, things like that.
Right, exactly. Even like in Asia too, like it's just like that westernization, like how popular like a lot of Western music, like back when it's like the 2000s were happening in Asia, there's like the 90s musics were like starting to pop in their area. So that's why we started seeing that small progression of like fashion is a big thing too. Like it started to come creeping just a little bit slower in those other countries because they get just a little bit slower, but it's like they're still consuming it. They want to be more westernized.
That's where I feel like art can also like influence in a bad way.
Yeah.
An inauthentic way, like causing other cultures to be inauthentic in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as like how far you'll take art to influence you, when does it become bad, right? Like, I really like this artist and I like this sort of music. I like this sort of art. But then I also can't forget where I come from. And what I'm about.
Your origins.
You can get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty easy.
Yeah. So, like, I guess you have to have that in your mind, that mental block, in a sense. Or maybe just identity to understand where you come from, And you sort of went on that about the community, You had said about when you feel acceptance. I forget what you said specifically, but when you feel acceptance... And you feel you have like someone's listening to you,
like valued.
I think that those sort of things are really important to have.
Yeah, well, that's what I named the show that I put on when I was all finished, A Community That Gives Back. Why? Because I saw that the refugees, immigrants who came to the United States all had so much value to bring to the United States. They had so much diverse influence, so much, things, and everyone had done something different. They had started restaurants, they had become car salesmen, doctors, computer scientists. I mean, they were amazing people.
Wow.
Yeah. And they had contributed so much to the community.
That's awesome.
I've actually been fortunate to sing with the choir a few times.
Okay.
So like I've experienced some of those stories and the vibes, like just the pure connection. Because for me, music is the voice of life. It's you can talk to a deaf person through music because of the feeling that music gives, the expression,
the vibration.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what language. You can learn language through music because you pick up that sound. That expression, then you can start to learn, and it's repetitive, and people identify through it. It's like the most beautiful thing.
How did you get involved with the refugee choir?
Shoot. Man, long story short, I was out at a function for this nonprofit up north, and I met this lady named Erin. She found out I was from Tacoma, and then she was like, my friend Erin down in Tacoma is doing this refugee choir, and she's looking for volunteers, and they're actually recording a song. And I was like, oh, cool. And she was like, let me hook you up. It's Sunday night, right? And so I just got done singing. Everyone's in like dress up attire, and Erin comes in like yoga pants because she just came from vacation. So she's like, let me hook you guys up. We just gravitated towards each other. And so me and Erin talked that night, and the next day she's like, we're recording a song. Would you like to come sit in? And we're recording at Tours, which happened to be one of the engineers that I was planning on work with in the future. Okay. And so it ended up being a cool collaboration. I ended up singing on the song, and then we did several events the last year and a half, I guess. Like, it's been pretty cool. So, like, yeah.
It sounds like something so special to be a part of, man. I mean, I can sing okay. I wish I...
No. Everyone has a song. That's actually the song that is the motto for the refugee choir. What? Everyone has a song. Like, if you can sing, if you can speak, like Aaron would vouch. If you can speak, if you can have any type of you can sing. You just sing, and together we make it beautiful. You know what I mean? Just like the paint.
That sounds beautiful.
I mean, that's straight from her. Like, that's what the refugee choir is about. Like, they give so much to our community that people are they just don't even know.
Yeah, I think it's like your art is a language of feeling, you know? Music is a language of feeling. Even painting, you know, that when someone sees a finished painting, it can create a feeling in you. Or the media, you know, any type of art creates a feeling. It's a language of feelings. So, you know, I would influence people to promote good feelings in the population, in the community, you know.
Community level, like you had stated. That's where it starts.
I think that's a good way to promote peace. Shoot. So, I mean, if there was an artist who was like promoting feelings of like, you know, sadness or like
negativity,
even though those feelings are, well, sadness is a feeling that you should recognize.
For
you know, it's good to acknowledge those feelings,
Yeah.
but like, you know, violent like actions or anything like that. I think, you know, I'm an advocator, so I would, you know, if I knew somebody, I would say why. I would just try to understand why would you promote those? You know,
understand first.
Yeah.
Understanding is key.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah,
You like because if I heard a song on the radio, so, I mean, like it's like the Molly Percocet song. So I'm going to these freaking schools and visiting and sharing music and, you know, sharing stories with the kids and helping whatever. And I'm hearing these kids walk down the hallway singing Molly Percocet. And I know for sure. And then this kid doesn't know what the Molly or Percocet is. You know, but he's singing it.
Yeah.
And you know, the mind is so malleable. It's fragile too. You know, you're gonna soak up.
Yeah.
And so you want to understand some stuff. Parents gotta, you know, filtrate.
Yeah, and that's what you were getting about how you know, they mimic.
Yeah, and I also want to just say something about that. It's just that some, like for me personally, I listen to music, but it's just like I'll get into it only because of the beat sometimes. Like it's not even the lyrics. Like we were talking about like how like if the beat is like you really feeling it, that's when you just start getting more invested in the song. Then like lyrics is something like kind of for me is like secondary. So like him for that child just go with that song. It's probably just because of the fact that
totally is.
Like there's like me because it's like especially at a younger age you're taught that like the instrumental portion of it first, and then it's like lyrics start coming later for them because some of the words they just don't understand. So it's just like it's just one of those things that it could just be them just listening to it because like they're like
how the words fit in with the beat.
Exactly, and then they just don't know that maybe that song, some songs have that negative connotation, but they just
Daniel, let's get a scenario. You have a kid. Your kid comes home singing Molly Percocet. What do you? Okay, so do you tell your kid like, hey, what is that about, or what would you do?
I would first maybe ask like, where did you listen to this? Where did you hear this song? Because it's just like kind of like understanding like maybe it was another kid or another parent that would be a little alarming for me. It's just really just being able to sit down. I guess it's also dependent on the age. Like say like they're just like maybe 5. It's just like I can't really just talk to a 5-year-old saying like having like a discussion saying like this music is not for
this
you.
Is about this drug.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like saying it would just be like depending on their age, it's like how can you approach it, but still saying it's like something that I'm not too keen on you listening at your age now.
And so looking at that, right? The artist who makes that song, knowing well, you know, maybe you didn't know it was going to be a hit, but when you're releasing music, when you're releasing art, do you feel a responsibility knowing that it's going to be publicly viewed? Do you feel a responsibility to uplift a certain standard as far as, you know, morals, I guess?
No, I mean, I feel vulnerable when I release my art because it's a part of me. And so I'm not being like, oh, I'm responsible for this and that. I'm just being myself.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Same.
Yeah, responsible for myself. But yeah.
But I wanted to
it's like I mean, but at that same time, like because when I heard the kid say Molly Percocet, it's like the reason why I'm going into the schools is because understanding how the mind works in a sense and the brain. This kid's singing Molly Percocet. He has no idea what he's saying.
Yeah.
I have the ability to create certain tunes that these kids can repeat.
That's true.
Right.
And it can be a daily deposit into their psyche that enables them to say better use their adversities to their advantage, or rather push them into more adversities. and adversities and have to learn over a longer term. Like, I mean, if I can have one kid repeat a positive phrase that came from some pain from me, you know, like parents, they try to shape our ways. Like, I don't want you to learn the way I learned. So from an artist perspective, if we can build that up, like I don't think the people who made Molly Percocet really thought kids were going to be singing it, but maybe the person who paid for it to get pushed a certain direction knew like the monetary gain on that flip around, because how it's suppressed into the mind and how it will phonetically, how it's put together, how the mind accepts that phrase.
Isn't also like certain like soundtracks or like CDs that are released, don't they have like an age restriction? Like they'll say that. It's just like, but it's one of those things that I think
they advise the kids.
Yeah, like I was
technology. YouTube and look at it.
Technology,
right?
Everyone has access.
You guys have any lasting remarks to say about the topic or anything? Yeah, do you guys have any lasting remarks or anything to say that you want to put out into the interweb?
I mean, we can't control what other artists do, you know? But I mean, I think we can accept and respect artists for what they contribute and do our best, even as an artist myself, to promote good values from my own art, you know?
Okay.
And I think that's all we can do, you know? Just be ourselves.
Okay.
Accept others, humanize, inspire connection, you know?
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about you, Caleb?
Oh, exactly what he said, copy and paste.
Okay.
And, just add on, do no harm, you know?
Okay.
Straight up, I live by a motto like ahimsa. And it's like, at whatever you do, just try to do as least harm as possible. It doesn't mean you have to be a saint. But, you know, when you're releasing, understand someone's receiving.
That's good.
That's a good one.
Always.
Daniel, any lasting remarks?
Yeah, I think all it is that this is the artists are the ones that are creating it. It's still the consumer. The consumer still has like, it's how they take it. So maybe just put it in a positive light. Whatever, if it is some kind of negative connotation, spin it to your own positive view to maybe light the way.
Okay. All right, guys. I want to thank you all for coming on the show, the Real Peace Podcast.
Thank you.
This was a super good one, man. A lot of good insight. Folks at home, I want you to tune in, if you can, next time and watch the next episode. Make sure you like and subscribe. And I'm going to have, maybe I want to have their information below in the comment box or before, above that. What is it called? It's not the comment box.
Description box?
Description box. Thank you, Daniel.
What you watching?
I'm going to have their information on that because these are amazing artists. I want their light to be shown as well. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Real Peace Podcast. I'm Kwabi signing off. Peace.